Today on Five to Survive, we are delighted to welcome Meg Hershberg, co-founder of the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program and the author of For Better or For Work. Her interest in a healthy lifestyle is also a big part of her personal life, as she is the wife of Gary Hershberg, founder of Stonyfield Farms. Those are the yogurt and other dairy products that you have in your refrigerator as we speak. Meg Hershberg, thank you so much and welcome to Five to Survive. I've managed to whittle down your list of 5 questions, though for sure it was not easy. As you know, it's my feeling that if children are not allowed to lose their physical identity, they will continue not only being active human beings, but they will make healthier choices in general. And part of those healthy choices are healthier food choices. So I have, as my first 2 questions for you, number one, do you think it's naive that I would believe again in the 21st century that children can be taught to make those appropriate choices? And number two, are the forces of McDonald's and the other food companies just too formidable for us to make a dent in these children's psyche?
These are great questions. I would say, just from having raised my own family in an overall terrible food culture, but trying to enforce a healthy food environment at home, that yes, it is possible to shift their food choices. I have to say that this is a process that happens over time because they do have the competing influences of their friends and other homes that they visit. And I think the more physically active kids are, the more they can appreciate how much better they perform and feel and are able to compete if they have a healthy diet. So I think that the two are really intertwined. And I think promoting outdoor activity, physical activity, sports, competitive or not, really gets kids focused on their overall health, which includes diet.
I have said that if you model good behavior for children, and that includes good foods and good diet choices, that even though they might stray, they will come back to that, once they're in their 20s and such. Would you agree with that? And would your friends say agree with that now that you all have children that are out of college and out into the world?
When my kids were growing up, they and their friends would laugh at what was in our refrigerator and pantry, and they all called us organic freaks. This is even my own kids. But again, if you hold steady and you explain why, you really talk to them, you meet them where they are and explain why you're doing what you're doing and why you think it's so important. They do get it over time. And I stress this over time because, like I say, when they were even in high school, they were snickering at it. But not anymore. I mean, they are at this point in their late 20s, early 30s, they are complete converts, as are their friends. So they kind of have to move there. Remember, they are surrounded by a horrific food culture that is tremendously influential. So it's going to be very hard for them to just, suddenly say, yeah, mom and dad, oh my God, they were right all along, when they're 16 and 17. But it does have an effect on them. So I would say, again, yes, the modeling is really important. One thing that I chose, and I think it's important really to pick your battles, my battle was soda. I absolutely forbid soda in the house, even for parties and things like that. When we would entertain, people would say, yeah, you need to, get Coke and ginger ale for your guests. And my attitude was, I'm not going to toxify these people who I love. Like, they're coming to my house because they're my friends. So why would I bring things into my home and invite them to put things into their body that I consider tremendously harmful? So I did really hold the line on soda, and that was a battle I actually won. Even when they were kids, they would go to friends' houses and they didn't drink soda. I didn't have many battles that I won when they were young. That was one.
Great. Well, that brings us to the next question, and you and the folks at Stonyfield Farm and Michelle Obama, one of our biggest influencers right now, have been pushing for over 3 decades now the concept of organic foods and healthier eating. Are we making any progress? And if we are, how are we measuring that?
Well, excellent question. I will say that the organic industry now, because it is actually an industry, is valued at over $60 billion. Now that's across all sectors that it's growing. And it's actually the fastest growing segment in the whole food chain, the whole food market. It doesn't mean it's the largest sector at all, but it's the fastest growing as people become more and more aware. These studies come out. One just came out about glyphosate and organics, that people who switch to organic food, even in the course of a couple of days, glyphosate is Roundup, the most commonly used herbicide, and it's considered a carcinogen by the World Health Organization, a probable carcinogen. That you can decrease the levels by 30, 40, 50% in a matter of a few days just by eating organics. So the data is coming out. It's starting to infiltrate into the public. It's not just in journals and things like that. It's in popular media. And a lot of times people make the switch to organics when they have a health event such as cancer, or they have a child and they're really concerned about the health of their family. So yes, we are seeing an increase. Now that said, only about 5% or less of the acreage in the United States, the farmable acreage, is organic.
Wow.
It's just that the value per acre, because organics typically cost more money, is far greater. But the actual amount of cropland devoted to organics is quite small.
You bring up the money, and again, the money is always the elephant in the room for so many of these things. How do we eliminate the food deserts, and another way of asking that? How do we get these organics and other good foods into the people that need the most? And those are the people that are living in high poverty areas and higher pollution areas. How do we do that?
It often surprises people to learn that the largest purveyor of organic foods in the United States is Costco.
Wow.
And it used to be Walmart. So they're neck and neck. And it's obviously just because they have such reach in the country and such volume, and because they do such volume, they obviously are able to charge lower prices and so forth. But the issue of access to organic food, and actually to vegetables and fruits, fresh, that is, in general, is really a problem. And these so-called food deserts are all over the United States. You have responsible companies like Whole Foods who are trying to do something about that. They opened up a store in Center City, Detroit, and they asked for each of their suppliers to take a cut in their margins, so that they, take a cut in price, so that they could sell in this inner city store. But obviously, the people who are producing the food can only do that so much because they have their own bills to pay. But it really is a problem. There are other things like community supported agriculture, urban gardens, other things like that are springing up to try to meet the need. But we clearly need a coordinated federal effort. It's only going to be piecemeal things like I've just described until we have a coordinated effort that by a federal government that recognizes that this is a problem and tries to put effort in the form of money, time, subsidies, and so forth into changing it.
I make the point in Survival of the Fit that this is the first generation, essentially in history, that will have a shorter lifespan than the last. And you have established the Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Foundation. And one of the things you talk about, besides fitness, besides a diet, is this concept of stress. One of the other things we're seeing in these young people, aside from diabetes and high blood pressure and all these old people diseases, but we're seeing an increase in stress, increase in depression, increase in anxiety. What would be some of your suggestions, knowing what you know through your work with an older population, that might work with the younger population?
Yeah, I mean, these are alarming trends. And, it's no accident that these things are all happening in the context of poor diet and poor fitness. Because we all know how much better we feel if we even just go outside and take a walk. I think that we need to stress physical activity much more. We, especially in children, think about kids. They always need to be active and run around. There's a reason for that. We obviously the diet issue that we have just addressed. I frankly have found that another universal tonic, it seems, no matter what your age, is being in nature, which is really hard for people, especially people living in urban environments. But if there's some way to get out of the city and to a trail or somewhere in an environment that's not too far, a lot of cities have beautiful parks you can take advantage of. So I think, and now, especially with coronavirus, when it's harder to be indoors, to enjoy a safe environment indoors with people, it's nice to find community and be with people outdoors where you feel more safe. You can take a walk. Children can do the same thing. I have my nephew, when coronavirus hit and nobody was in school, his mother started a little bike club so that they were all outdoors on their bikes riding around. So they felt like they were together, but they were de facto a safe distance apart because they were on their bikes and they were outside. So I think coming up with creative things like that, to especially with COVID and people in general being depressed about not being able to be with others freely, but children especially, they're very social. It's really hard to deny them that. So if you can find safe ways out of doors, in nature, doing physical activity for kids to be together and to get exercise, I think that would make a big difference in their psyches.
Well, Meg Hershberg, I can't thank you enough. Again, we have many more topics that we could chat about, and hopefully we can in the future. But thank you again for being on Five to Survive, and I think that the audience will really appreciate some of your words of wisdom. Thank you.
And I applaud what you're doing, and I appreciate it. Best of luck.